What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Binge Empire, Bingetown TV's sci-fi, fantasy, and a little bit more podcast. I guess this is probably going to be our last season 3 Wheel of Time deep discussion episode, as we kind of all just talked about before we hit the green light, or the red light rather, to record. This is just going to be fun. It's going to be kind of full season 3 discussions. We'll go through kind of high level thoughts, season rankings, characters, predictions, all that stuff that we wanted to do on the finale episode, but we talked so much about the episode itself that it just felt right to make a separate podcast episode to go over all of our thoughts for season 3. And I don't really know if there's any housekeeping at the top. I guess maybe if this is the first time you're listening, to set the stage a little bit here, there's 4 of us. My name is Kyle. I'm the host. I have read the books. I'm joined by Luke, aka YouTube. You can see is Lanfear's son. He is also a book reader. And then we are joined by Paul and Dave, who are show only. So they kind of have been the main entertainment throughout the season, throughout the seasons of all of our coverage, because they are going in completely blind to all of the episodes. They are throwing all the theories out there. It's their reactions and their thoughts that we care the most about. And I think without further ado, if we just want to jump into it, I know, Luke, you kind of created the outline. I have some notes as well here. The first thing I had was just these high-level thoughts about the season itself. I've been talking a lot, so I can pass it to whoever wants to step up and grab the mic first.
Yeah, let me start just because I want to comment on the initial reactions we're seeing around the internet, which is always going to be something that we were looking forward to see how toxic or how positively received this finale was going to be from show watchers, book only readers, things like that, where we just kind of were curious of what was the reception going to be, especially with them taking some liberties that were huge changes from the books. So I guess just to back up for a second, my opinion, I still loved everything about this. We're like a week, it's probably been about a week since I've seen the finale for the first time at this point, but it's only been getting stronger in my head. And as I read reactions from people who have never touched the Wheel Time books around the internet, it seems like it's universally loved. Like the ratings on IMDb, it looks like the conversations from just show only watchers have all been pretty positive. Everybody loving it. I think it was the second highest rated episode of the season, which that's something we could probably talk about. But on the other hand, we're going to naturally have the book cloaks who are just ripping this apart. It's kind of predictable that it was going to go this way, where there's such major changes, especially with the life of Swan, like, which is one of the biggest changes that the show's ever made. It's causing some crazy conversations online. I don't think it should be anything that just should scare us off from a potential season 4. I think that enough positivity is out there that it's really just the same couple of random Twitter accounts I see rehashing over and over. They just like to hate watch the show because, if, for my opinion, I feel like if you are still watching the show in season 3 after season 1 and 2 as a book purist and only care about this as an adaptation, like, you should have probably been gone by the end of the first 2 seasons. And at this point, you're simply just hate watching just to hate watch. And that's why I think it's been received so positively, is because all those people kind of exited, except for the true diehard I hate this show fans. So overall, I think it was pretty positively received. I'm happy with how it's going, and I'm really crossing my fingers for like a season 4 renewal within the next week or so. But I think thumbs up from me. So pass it over to the new guys. What do you guys think, or what are you guys seeing?
I mean, I absolutely love this season. It just felt like there was a step up in not only like visual quality, but like emotional caring about the characters before their actions. Like, while we see whatever tragedy or whatever big scene takes place, we actually like know of the repercussions and know what it means. So I don't know. I just felt so much more invested this season than I did previously. It was amazing. I mean, I think the Forsaken in this story make it so much better. You know, the more Forsaken, the crazier it is, because while I do miss like the presence of Ishi, he was such a good character and I really do miss him. I think the big number of Forsaken just popping in and out with their own agendas added such like a fun little twist to like who is the bad guy in this entire season, and you know who's going against who. So absolutely love that. I love the Rand. Will he, you know, won't he go mad aspect of the whole thing. We stay on the side of the light and everything. It's just so fun to not really be sure where he's going to go because we've seen signs of both. So I just think this was a phenomenal season and really sets up a lot for season 4 to really just take off because we have so many different plot points now. It's not just we're following one story of this band of characters. They all branched off and there's so much more and we're going to learn about, and I'm excited about the world too. So I thought this was without a doubt the best season.
Yep, just gonna continue that thread of easily the best season. Not only were the visuals and stories stepped up, but I also think the actors really stepped up in this season, especially our boy Yosha. I mean, all these characters through 3 seasons have gone through some heavy changes in their, in what their characters are going through, and it's reflected so well in each of their performances. I think 3 seasons in, I could not imagine this cast being any different than what it is. I think everyone plays their role so perfectly. From a show-only watcher perspective, this season was flawless to me. I in seasons 1 and 2, when we would discuss, some of the book changes and things, I could kind of sit there and reflect and be like, okay, that did feel like a pretty heavy change. But this season, when we're talking about some of the differences between the books and the shows, maybe besides the Loyal death, I felt like everything flowed very well. It didn't feel like anything was controversial from my perspective. I agree with Luke that from what I Googled, just, Wheel of Time season 3, I would say like at least 90% of the articles that I came across were like, Wheel of Time is it. This was the best season. This show is going to be incredible. And then there's like that 5-10% of people that are just like on Reddit who are like, this show is atrocious, and it goes into what you're saying. I think the only people that are left of the book readers are those who are either obviously separating the source material and enjoying the show for what it is, or the people who are just diehard book fans who are just here to stay and shit on the show. And again, that felt like the biggest minority of all the seasons this season. Like, I did not hear their voice as much as I did in the past. If they left, screw them, who cares? But I love this season. I was just saying prior to the podcast that this may have been my favorite recording we've ever done, besides maybe The Magicians. Like, just coming onto this podcast every week to discuss Wheel of Time at a high level is just so freaking fun, and I'm definitely going to miss it. I am so confident that we're getting season 4. There's not a doubt in my mind that we're not getting it. So
I love to hear the confidence, and I love to hear the good vibes. I think, yeah, it's just so obvious what a step up this was from the previous 2 seasons. I think it feels great as a book reader to hit on some of these huge story moments. We'll get into a lot of like our favorite moments, but obviously, episode 4 was fantastic. There's some great parts of episode 7, with Perrin's arc and Fail and all of that. And it was like so cool as a book reader to see those things be put to the screen. I do have some sympathy for people that have been supporting the show for this long and have been rolling with the changes, and then maybe at some point throughout this season, specifically the finale, them feeling like it's no longer for them. I think that sucks that that's a thing. I'm glad that I'm not in that camp. But I hope that maybe, as they process what's happened, we get more information about season 4, we get a break from it, and then the promo for season 4 starts and the episodes come out and, people kind of come back. I do think that seems to be more people getting into that category, like Luke is firmly in and I'm moving that way too, of the ability to really separate it and see it as its own thing and not get so hung up on the changes that are being made. And I think part of that benefit is that since we're 3 seasons in, we're getting to see the result kind of some of those changes, which is kind of nice. And we're cautiously maybe optimistic, like season 2, something happened. It's like, okay, we'll have to see how that goes. And we're kind of getting where it's going and we're feeling better about it. So I just hope that type of feeling continues, because it definitely felt that way a lot throughout this season, which is just good. And all of the numbers and metrics and stuff seem good. I know nothing about that stuff, but the vibes seem good to me statistically. So hopefully, like Luke said, the season 4 announcement is soon and forthcoming.
I'm going to talk us through some of these next segments. This next one that we're going to go through directly is going to probably be the least interactive or interesting, but just because this is related to what we're talking about now, let's just go around. I'm sure it might be universal or unanimous. Ranking of the seasons. Is it 3-2-1 for everybody in terms of quality and how much you liked it and just across the board?
Easy.
Yeah, and I'll kind of go a step further and just to say the reason why it's like that for me personally is when I reflect back, at least just reflecting, when I think of seasons 1 and 2, I think of episode 1 being a banger. I think of episode 4 being a banger. You know, season 1, episode 4, season 1, episode 1, season 2, episode 1, season 2, episode 4. I think all of those are bangers, but then we get this like weird decline a little bit as we approach the finale. And I didn't feel that this season. Like we got episode 4, which obviously was one of the craziest episodes of Wheel of Time ever. But then I also reflect on, okay, we got episode 6, which was a banger, Hills of Tanjiko, Shadow Rising, we know. But episode 6, and then episode 7 with Perrin, and then the finale, which ended up being the best finale of all the seasons. This is where my rankings come into play of, yes, 3-2-1. I just kind of wanted to elaborate there. And when I reflect on each season as a whole, this one was just up and up throughout the whole season, whereas the other ones maybe had a point of decline at some point in the back half.
And so let me read some statistics here to kind of back up what we're saying here, because I think it's kind of an agreement where if you're looking over at Rotten Tomatoes, the score by season was for season 1, 2, 3, 61%, 86%, 97%. And that is just a monumental climb. And hopefully we're on the right path there. And then for the series overall, it's up to an 88% from critics and 75% for fans, which the fan is a little bit lower, but I'm pretty sure both of those numbers came up as on an average throughout season 3. So that's nice. And then switching gears over to IMDb, the series overall has a 7.2 average. And if I were to tell you that the whole series for Wheel of Time is a 7.2, what would you guess that the season 3 average would be?
I would still guess
at
it like an 8.
I know, but
I would guess around an 8, so it
mid-8s.
balance. Yeah, it would balance out because if I'm thinking off, I know we're doing IMDb, but Rotten Tomatoes, if they had, at a 60%, and then season 3 was an 80, that kind of balances in my head to 70. So I would guess like an 80% for IMDb.
Yeah, so it ended up being an 8.6 average for season 3, which is crazy. That's a huge 1.4, bump. And if you just want to extend it to some of the season 3 episodes themselves, like episode 4 was a 9.4. That's the Ruidian one. And then the finale was a 9.1, which is by far the highest rating for a finale because the finales always fall flat. So like overall, it just seems like every trend for this show from a critic point of view, from how it's being received and rated online is just up and up. I don't see how Amazon doesn't see this and look at it. And even compared to Game of Thrones, where I sound like a broken record every time I talk about this, but it's a really important point to drive home that Game of Thrones became a global phenomenon, but not until after the Red Wedding, which was the end of season 3, meaning that people heard about the Red Wedding from the diehards that were watching at the end of season 3 and then jumped onto the train starting in season 4. And that's when Game of Thrones really became like a phenomenon. So I think that that's a pretty good parallel for where we are right now, where the quality of season 3 has been so up there that people are now recommending it to friends. You're seeing it from famous film Twitter accounts are now talking about Wheel of Time, which I didn't really see in the past as much. So hopefully if this follows the same trend as Game of Thrones, season 4 will have so many more eyes on it because of the quality increase of season 3. And then of course people will jump in and then it should just go up and up and up from there as just an Amazon show with a blank check behind it that knows it has its fans. So that's where I'm hoping we're going, but it seems like we're in a good spot. So Kyle, any other things you want to throw in there about just ratings or things you've seen online about this?
The one thing I will say, and we almost using this as an excuse to shout out longtime friend of the pod, Rant Al Moore, that the Rotten Tomatoes audience score has gone up in the past like 3 weeks for season 3, which is kind of crazy because it had so many ratings when it first came out, the first 3 episodes and all that stuff. And it's been going up even this deep into the season, which means that a lot of really high reviews are coming in to make the audience score go up. So it's getting more traction as the season goes on. It seems like, all of the, I think like, what do they call them? The social media, like metrics reporting accounts on Twitter It seems like Wheel of Time is good on that with like the online engagement. I think all of the like streaming number metrics lag. So I think the ones for like around when episode 4 came out just got released, and it's still hanging in the top 10. It'll be interesting to see as it goes on, because that was around the time I think Invincible was ending, Reacher was getting towards the end, and things like
Severance
that. So
was also
yeah,
distracting, probably
Severance
at some
too
level.
as well. So it'll be interesting in the next coming weeks of what the streaming numbers look like as we got towards the end of the season. And then, man, I'm just waiting on that news drop.
It's going to be like seasons 4 through 6 are renewed. It's not going to be one
I hope
season.
so.
I think that's the big delay.
Well, yeah, 'cause I know that they've written themselves kind of like an off ramp at like, I think starting maybe in season 5 or 6. I forget the exact way that they've said it. So hopefully if they can write with some knowledge that they have like 2 more seasons, at least that can help things. And I think as well, one maybe concern could be if the longer it takes to greenlight season 4, the longer we have to wait for it, which just sucks. Because we're in that time of TV, it seems, besides maybe like The Pit seems like a show that is going to come out pretty quickly after their season dropped. And I just hope it's not another like 2.5 year wait, because that would just be buns.
Yeah.
As you know, a big Witcher fan, I think we're all Witcher fans, but I don't know, say I'm the biggest, not to brag, but I'm so jealous of where this show is now, Wheel of Time is, compared to what The Witcher was, because it's almost reversed. Like The Witcher season 1 came out, it blew up, it was huge. Wheel of Time season 1 came out, it was under the radar, kind of skipped 2 seasons at the end of season 3. This is probably the lowest point The Witcher's ever been, and Wheel of Time's on the up and up. So really positive vibes, it feels like, for this show, because everything you guys said, it's gaining traction instead of losing traction. So really, really positive thinking going forward.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's move on to our next segment. These should be a little bit more of a direct question than answer here. So we'll pass it over to Dave first here. Let's get your favorite and least favorite episode of season 3.
Oh, favorite episode and least favorite episode. For some reason, I had favorite moment coming up here. But favorite episode of season 3 is going to have to be. It's such a close battle, and I think every conversation I have of these topics that we have going forward, it's going to be like, oh, I have an honorable mention I want to shout out, but I'll try not to do it. I'll stick to the one. Episode 6 is probably going to be my favorite. I think we're still feeling. I'm still. As episode 4 unravels a little bit more and we get those payoffs, it will eventually probably overtake 6. But I think right now the payoff still hasn't been quite there for 4. I mean, we've got a lot and it was incredible, but 6 overall, I think, was incredible. I mean, we get the banger of a song, Hills of Tanchico. Mo Gideon is plotting very heavily in the background, and we love to see that. Episode 6 just really hit home for me, and Tom being reintroduced as well, I just felt like overall that was just such a great episode, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that I picked 6 over 4. But we have a lot of people on this podcast. I'm assuming they're also going to pick 4, so I'm going to get some flowers to other episodes that maybe won't be receiving them. So I'll give it to episode 6. And then this was hard because all the episodes were so great. So when I say least favorite, don't take that as I hated this episode, because again, season 3 was all bangers. But if I had to pick one episode, it was probably going to be episode 2. Episode 1 kicked off very highly, and we got a lot of action in episode 1, whereas episode 2 felt like things were kind of slowing down a little bit, and the pieces were being put into place for where we were going to be ending up by the end of the season. So it just makes sense that episode 2 for me would be my least favorite. Again, still a phenomenal episode, but I'll give it to that one.
Sounds like you hate Elaine's family.
Nah,
that was their episode, right?
Yeah, the introduction.
Dave's love for Elaine will come back around in a later
first
conversation.
The first like 5-10 minutes of the episode were fucking insane, but then beyond that, it's like we're setting the pieces of family ties and things like that and getting the connections there.
Kind of on a similar vein for my favorite, because I wanted to say 4 because 4 is so good, but it was almost like I would watch other episodes and think back to 4, and then so like in the moment as I was watching 4, it didn't bring out as much emotion as, say, episode 7, which is my favorite, which is the Two Rivers and Perrin. I was so invested in that episode. It brought out so much emotion from me. I was standing up watching it. I was screaming. I wasn't watching with anybody, and I was still doing all that. So I would say episode 7 was my favorite. And I don't know why. Maybe it was because it followed my favorite episode, but I think my least favorite was the finale. Just I don't know why. I just walked away being like slightly upset. Maybe because I knew I wasn't going to have another episode in a week for it to follow up on any other storylines. But I don't know. I want to say, the finale was the only time where I was slightly upset. So I'm going to say episode 8 was my least favorite.
Okay. Kyle, you want to go?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear my computer is running. Okay.
Yeah, we can't.
That's
But
perfectly fine. My favorite episode I have is 4. It just, again, it's one of the most iconic chapters in not only, I think, Wheel of Time, this series, but probably fantasy, at least from, the, let's call it maybe the middle era, if you want to call Lord of the Rings, maybe like the old original era. And it just, they did it so well. It was so cool. It was so fun to talk about too. It was so interesting to hear your guys' thoughts, you guys being Paul and Dave, and then us kind of going through and answering your questions. I thought that recording was probably one of my favorite recordings. I had the honorable mention of 6 though, Dave. So I like that you had mentioned that was your favorite. I agreed with Paul. My least favorite was 8. There's just always the finale is so much to do, and some of it usually ends up falling flat for me. And that's just kind of the way it's been throughout the whole series. But I do think that this is the best season finale of the 3. So like Luke mentioned, the trend is going up. So that's positive. At least my honorable mention there was 5. Probably somewhat similar reasons for what Paul had for his least favorite of 8, and that it followed 4. And it was kind of just like an Eat Your Vegetables type of episode of like, let's reintroduce all these storylines and things like that. And like Dave mentioned, by no means a bad episode, just honorable mention of my least favorite.
Yeah, I don't have anything unique here as an answer, but maybe the reasonings will be a little different. For my favorite, it's going to be episode 4. And I'll take it a step further and say it was my favorite episode of television I've watched over the last year. And that includes Severance, Dark Matter, Shogun, House of the Dragon, From, Invincible. Episode 4 is my single favorite episode of TV I've watched in the last year, without a doubt. And a lot of it does tie to some of the things that Paul and Dave were hinting at, where you'll appreciate it more and more the deeper you go because of the foundation it sets and just how well they achieved the goal of trying to tell this insane story of history that's going to connect to the prophecy and then drive the story going forward. I just think it was so well done. It was just a masterpiece to me. I'm probably going to say it's like my favorite episode of Wheel Time for a really long time. I don't know if anything will ever beat it because, like Kyle said, it's one of the most iconic parts of the book series, and I think they just landed it. So that's my favorite. And then I struggled so hard to pick a least favorite, but I ended up picking episode 5 just because it felt like it was like an Elidas versus Swan episode. It was a White Cloak episode. It was the Gawain dreaming episode. There wasn't just any of those big moments for my characters, so I think that's the only one I could really pick. But that being said, I still enjoyed the episode. Every episode this season was good, so that's going to be my answer. Now we're going to move over to character rankings, and this one's going to have 4 different topics within the character ranking, so it might be a little bit quicker here. But we'll pass it over to Paul first, and we're going to do top 5 main characters. Go.
Top 5 main characters, which is hysterical because for some reason I didn't have that written down, but I have all the other ones. But I will rip it right off the bat. Top 3 main characters. I'm going to go
5.
Top 5. Holy shit. I'm going to go.
So this
You
would
want
be. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want me to give you your season 2 list?
No, because that will be hysterical to do it afterwards. But
yeah, give it after. Yeah.
Right off the bat, I'm just going to run with Perrin, Rand, Gawain, Matt, and then Moraine. Holy shit, that was just like that was as honest as could be. I couldn't make any adjustments. That was just first ones that popped up.
So season 2, you were Rand, Egwene, Moraine, Lan.
Okay.
So Perrin, big jump for you.
Makes sense. Lan dropped a little bit. He didn't have a phenomenal season.
I'll follow that up since we're talking about my boy, and he will also be dropping out of my top characters as well, unfortunately. I'm going to do this in a little bit of a tier. So we have in his solo tier of his own, the GOAT, Randall Thor. It's just how can you not love him? This was the best season of Rand by far. He is solo tier, sitting by himself at the top. Now, tier 2 is where we have some. I did not want any order on these characters. I love them all equally. We're going to throw in Elaine. We're going to throw in Lanfear. We're going to throw in the GOAT. Ishii is still staying in the top 5. I fucking love Ishii. All I needed was one scene from him this season to keep him in my top 5. And then we have in the last spot, this is so tough for me, this last spot. It could have gone either way. I'm going to go with Perrin because he had such an incredible episode 7. I said I wasn't going to do this, but the honorable mention was going to be Matt here. But I have to give it to Perrin. That whole episode 7 was just incredible. His character growth was amazing. He really grew on me with that episode alone.
And yes, your season 2,
It's
number
very
1 was
different.
Ishii,
Yeah, he dropped.
and then it was Rand, Egwene, and Lan. So Egwene and Lan, a little bit of
They-
rough seasons for you.
Which makes sense. I mean, Egwene wasn't, the centerpiece of this season like she was in last season. She was always at the side of Rand working on her dream traveling, and then Lan also didn't get much screen time. I will shout out that scene though with him and Rand early on. I think it was episode 1 or 2 where they just have that, mentor mentee conversation that still hits home for me when I see those two together.
Can I just say that it has been such a joy to watch Dave's love of Rand for me just increase as the seasons go on. I know it's the same way that Kyle feels about Paul's love for Perrin. It's just amazing for me and Kyle to get our proteges to follow in our footsteps. Essentially.
And I mean, Dave loves Elaine too, so I'm just winning.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
all right,
good.
I'll go next. And then just my top 5. I do think I pulled Egwene out of this season. So what I ended up on is Rand, Lanfear, Moraine, and then Perrin and Matt. And I think Perrin and Matt will firmly be in the top 3, I think, after next season, is my guess.
Yeah, you just pulled Egwene out of 4 and added Perrin and Matt.
Yeah.
So you're pretty consistent there.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. And then mine will be Perrin, Lanfear, Rand, Elaine, and Ishamael. I also had them in the top 5. I was trying to think, like series long. He was so unbelievably good in the first 2 seasons that he still deserves to be floating around the top 5. We're talking about him in episode 3 of this season. We see him in episode 6, so his impact is still being felt. So I felt like he was worthy to be in the top 5 still. I agree. The next season there could be a big shakeup to all of that stuff.
Yep.
Wow, dude, Lanfear in all 4 of ours, right?
She's crushing it, man. I mean,
Oh,
she's
not
such
Paul's. No, okay.
Paul.
He doesn't like evil chicks.
I love him.
Okay. Let's just keep the same ordering and run through the next one. And this is going to be from Meryl on Discord. She was curious about our favorite pairing of any 2 characters.
Paul.
Favorite pairing? So easy. Bane and Chiad. They're just the best. They're so good. They're phenomenal. They're badasses. They're funny as hell. They're like the comic relief. And I just think of the one scene where, they're in the Wine Spring Inn and parents asking, will you take our children? You're the fastest on. No one can move as fast as the way of the leaf. And you just hear Bane and Chiad. Dude, one of the best moments of the whole season.
Favorite pairing for me, kind of said it in my last spiel, but it's going to be Lan and Rand. Their relationship just makes me feel all types of good because Rand doesn't really have an outlet to talk to in Moraine. Moraine kind of just sticking to the plan at all times, doesn't really want to get too close to Rand, but she'll get close to the Dragon Reborn. But Lan does offer Rand that out in terms of communication, and he's a great mentor, man. I think these 2 together just warm my heart so much.
I will steal the easy one then, the actual easy one, and it's going to be Perrin and Fael, who were a 10 out of 10 combination this season. I thought that was one of the best things that this season introduced was their relationship. I already appreciate their dynamic more than I did in the book, because Fael gets under my skin sometimes in the book, but she's just perfectly cast and their chemistry is just amazing. Sorry for stealing that one, Kyle.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to say that, but good thing I wrote out 4 possible ones. So, because I figured usually I end up going towards the end of these things. I am going to use what was number 3 on my list, and I'm going to say Rand and Lanfear. They just were such a centerpiece of the season, and I just enjoyed the journey of it all. It's nice that we got in the finale, and it's going to be interesting to see what type of interaction they might have in the future. And she's just so good that she deserved, I think, a shout out in this pairing section for sure. The back against the wall option I had was just Mogideon and spiders, but I didn't have to use that one.
And spiders.
Dude, Lanfear's so good. It makes me just want to rewatch Peaky Blinders. She's like that, just good as this character. All right, let's reverse the order then, Kyle. We'll snake draft it fantasy style, and then we're gonna do the top 3 side characters, and we'll pass that over to you.
Nice, because I have a feeling these might repeat a lot. So I have Fael as number 1. I have Bane and Chiad as number 2, because we know that they go where each other goes, so they're one character in this. And then number 3, I have Tom Maryland, because that's just our boy.
Okay. My top 3 side characters, I had Fael as number 1. Number 2, I picked Mogideon. I don't think she qualifies as a main character yet because she hasn't got enough screen time, but I thought she was an amazing Forsaken this season all around, ever since her queue up at the end of season 2. So I think she just delivered on the creepiness and just the power levels that I expected from her. And then third, I'm going to actually pick Alana, because I feel like she's been catching a lot of strays indirectly from the fandom. And it's not because of what they're giving her or her performance or her character at all. It's really because people are kind of complaining that she's getting a lot of moments that other characters get in the books. So she's getting more screen time, but I actually think she just does so well every time she's on screen. She shows some of the coolest uses of the one power this season. She's just a badass. I do think she had a little bit of weird plot armor going on at sometimes, but not her fault. As a character, Alana was an amazing green. And I thought that she's got her head on right, and she's always looking out for the side of the light. So I thought she crushed.
Yeah, now that I think about it, Alana to me feels like a great representation of the green Aja. I mean, I know that she's been catching strays also physically in the show with a lot of arrows, but I think that's also a testament to just, in my head, the green Aja and how battle ready they are. So that's I like that shout out as well. They did really well with really emphasizing the green Aja and how important they are for combat.
Yep. All right, you're up.
All right. Top 3 side characters. Number 1, we'll go Tom Maryland. Easy choice there. Number 2, this is going to be pretty unique, I guess. I'll go with Min. So I know Min had some up and downs for the first 2 seasons, but I think this season she really showed her loyalty and trust to our main squad. So I appreciate her, and her power I feel like is going to come in handy a lot going in the future. At least I'd like to think. So that felt there. And then 3, Bane and Chiad, comedic humor is just, it's always there for them. So, and I know they're 2 characters, but we got to associate them as one. Yeah.
It makes it better for me because I get to include more, because number 1 and 2, I had Bane and Chiad. So there you go. I just love them. They're like the ultimate ride or die for, like, to have behind your back. Amazing.
Who did you have first, Bane?
I knew somebody was going to ask that, and I couldn't decide. Like, I literally thought back, and both of them were just amazing, and we're both badasses. One instant got more than the other. Yeah, no, whatever. They're 1A, 1B.
You're good. Yeah, I wasn't actually anticipating an answer.
Number 3, of course, Fael. Almost was 1. And then as the third, I had Dane Bornholt Jr. Borny Jr. But I think I'm actually going to go Maxim because of episode 7 and how much I was gushing over him and how much he grew in standing just from that episode alone. So
That must be hard to keep Tom out of your top 3 because I know you also love Tom as well.
I do like Tom, but he kind of pissed me off in the finale because when he goes to throw a knife, he yells, "Hey!" and then throws a knife. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just why get their attention? Piss me
He's
off.
a distraction. That was the whole point. He's a
What if,
distraction.
to make
you know
sure
what'd
that
be
they weren't going to be
really-
looking for Elaine.
Yeah, you know what'd be distracting? A knife in the back of your head that you didn't see coming, but instead he wants to yell. So
It's fair.
It's a
fair.
good point. It's a good point.
Is that it? Okay, yeah. So
Yeah, that's all of us.
all right, we're gonna do the next one is gonna be back to Kyle. We're gonna do the MVP and LVP of the season, and then we'll give you a chance after we go to kind of give the recap of who's leading the series, if you have that.
Yeah, I have some data on our MVP LVP. I wrote
Doida?
5 MVPs and 3 LVPs again because I didn't anticipate going first, so this is fun and also a little pressure filled. Paul, I understand what you feel sometimes now. I am going to pick, to no surprise, I'm going to say Perrin Ibarra. I think the evidence is almost in how many top 5s he jumped into versus he wasn't sniffing anyone's in season 2. And I just think out of all the characters, he probably had the most like meteoric rise over the course of this season. And that to me is just MVP worthy. He was just great. I think a lot of people, especially non-book readers, went into this season and Perrin was kind of a periphery character. He didn't have a ton to do seasons 1 and 2. And then he is firmly in the conversation now, I think. So that's the definition of it, a season MVP to me. And then LVP, I'm going to pick Samael because I'm going first, so screw it. I can't imagine someone falling shorter of their goals than this guy. It just was an embarrassing performance. Just not great stuff. Why you call yourself chosen? Just bad stuff all around.
Okay, then I will take Randall Thor as the MVP of the season because he's so obvious that he deserves to be it. He just had so many moments as an actor, just got to live the dream in episode 4, just crushed a Forsaken easily, raised an army from the ground. Like, he's just doing it all. He's being the epitome of an epic fantasy character. And I thought he had some of his best moments of the series this season. So Rand's going to be the MVP. And then my LVP, I'm just going to say Nynaeve, just because of almost opportunity costs, where it just felt that she got left in the dust and didn't really get the shining moments that she probably will start getting in the future. I don't know. She just felt like the least important Emmons Field 5 member this season, the least impact. I know she had a moment in the finale, but even that was a little controversial. So hopefully she's on the rise in the next season, but she didn't do too much for me. So when I think back on season 3, I kind of don't even think of her as a character with big moments.
I know you're not doing it on purpose, Luke, but it just feels like you keep poking the bear because out of all the book readers, like Nynaeve has like the most loyal and vocal fans. It feels like.
Oh yeah, and they're all wrong, but
They're all wrong.
yeah.
That's so
She
funny.
does have some 10 out of 10 moments coming up at some point, but
Oh my god, that was clear.
Not
That
worth
was
it.
Great.
End
That
of
was great.
end of series, Nynaeve is great character. So
Oh, I'm
Sure.
sure, but that's
all
just
of
so.
the all of those people, I can get you Luke's address on the side to send the hate
Yeah.
away from us.
Oh god, Paul, you can go. I haven't gone last yet.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, Perrin Rand, I did kind of have them as my MVP, but I'll switch it up. I'm gonna go Mo Gideon because I feel like she really made her presence felt throughout almost the entire season. And if you're looking at where she started to what she achieved, she definitely has got a lot accomplished. She's, killed Samael. She's moving up in the Forsaken ranks, trying to get that nameless. And she recruited Leandra, and she's got the collar and the bracelets. It seems like she's in a good spot. So I'm going to have Mo Gideon there for MVP and LVP. I wanted to. I don't think you're going to have her, Dave. So I'm just going to explain.
Cool.
I wanted to have
set the
Lanfear.
floor. Set me up on a platform for my LVP. You know who it's coming to be.
I wanted to say Lanfear just from the story plot points of she's losing Rand. She's getting beat by Moraine at the end, but I actually love her character, so I don't want to say that. So LVP, I'm gonna go Cool It In, because what a chump, am I right? Like, he's getting tossed around by wise ones, not even allowed to go in Ruidian, and then a few episodes later, he's proclaiming that he's holy and he's got these tattoos, and I'm like, dude, you're the worst.
That's a good one. That is a really good one. All right, MVP. Elaine, gotta give it to my girl. You know, sings one of the greatest songs of our generation, absolutely, and also crushes a Black Aja with some Balefire. We love that moment, absolutely, for her. So definitely gonna give it to Elaine as my MVP. LVP. Fuck this bitch Elida. We hate this woman so much. She is a witch. She can just, I hope she gets the vulgar treatment, maybe even with like fire that isn't as hot, so it's even slower. Anything to get this bitch off the screen, man. Elida, you're going down, and I hope it's Moraine that does you in. I hope it is. So get Elida out of here.
Dave balances my lack of praising for some of these side characters that the community loves so well. So it's good. It's good. He's gonna get revenge for everybody.
Yeah.
I like you throwing in that she's a witch.
Yeah. She is. I will not call any I will not call any Aes Sedai a witch except for her, and maybe her staff, her person.
Alviara?
Her staff.
Yeah, her staff woman.
Okay. So honestly, almost all the ones I had written down almost got taken out, so that's pretty funny. But so to go look at the entire season of these MVP, LVP counts, we had 35 different characters chosen over the course of the season, which is very interesting. Yeah, everywhere from Lewin's sister to, like Dave mentioned, the daughter heir of Andor. The MVP leaders, so these are the people that received the most votes. Elaine, far and away number one. She received 4 MVP votes. So there was a 50% chance of every episode that Elaine was going to be voted an MVP. And then Rand, Perrin, Matt, and Egwene were all tied. They got 2 votes, MVP votes, over the course of the season. So they were the only ones besides Elaine to receive multiple. The LVP leaders, and you can tell from Dave's passion and fire, most of this is led by Dave, and that Dane Bornhold and Elida both died for having 2 LVP votes. So that's 4 total votes there. Dave was 3 of those 4 total votes. So do not get caught in Dave's crosshairs.
You will receive LVP votes. You will receive them.
That's so funny. And then we had 4 characters to receive both an MVP and an LVP vote over the season. So that was Rand, who got 2 MVPs and 1 LVP. Moraine, who got 1 of each. Swan, who got 1 of each. And then Maxim, who got 1 of each.
Okay.
Just a little bit interesting there to show their journey, I guess, let's say, throughout the season. And then the final kind of bullet note I have here is that every Emmons Field 5 member, the main 5 from the 2 rivers, received a vote. Rand was the only one of those 5 to be an LVP, and Nynaeve was the only one not to receive multiple votes. So that goes along with Luke's mentioning, and that she kind of was almost a side piece, let's say, decoration almost in this season.
Yep. Okay, cool. Couple more segments here, and then we can get out of here. So this next one is going to be everybody's top 3 favorite moments of the season. And we're going to have a caveat here of only talk about one in depth, but you can list all 3. And then as we're going around, if somebody talked about your top moment, you'll just talk about in depth the next one. So I'll go last here. Whoever wants to jump in first.
I like. All right, cool. Because I was gonna say I have a list, so you take some out, and then I'll go second. How about that?
Sounds good. So easy number 1 moment for me was Rand smiting Samael. I mean, I was legitimately standing up, like screaming, just this is so hype moment. I will never forget that. I mean, I know Samael didn't die, but Rand just wielding the 1 power with the taint around and just so confidently, not even looking at his victim, just standing up slowly, smiting Samael from the heavens. That was just by far my favorite scene of the season. Second favorite scene, I could say scenes because it's episode 4 in general, but if I had to pick a specific moment from episode 4, it would probably be Rand seeing the different spins of the wheel, just how many times, Rand seeing his ancestors. He didn't see the spins of the wheel. That was Moraine. But Rand seeing the ancestors, I mean, those were huge reveals. We get the whole Oathbreaker reveal, why they don't use swords. It was just an incredible moment for the entire story. And then my third favorite moment is going to be, I lost it. Where did it go? The Black Aja battle at the beginning of season 1. I just remember sitting down with Luke, and a minute goes by, and I'm cozy. I'm not even thinking anything's going to happen, and then we just immediately get into the reveal of the Black Ajas and the battle, and I'm just sitting there like, this is a lot to process right now, and it was such a cool moment. I really loved it. I mean, there are so many other great moments. Like I said at the top, I mean, you could give, like, it's so hard to just narrow them down to these specific 3 or 5 moments, but these for me were the ones that stood out.
Yeah, so my top 3 moments, I had a clear away number 1, and then I had a list for 2 and 3. Dave, you took some out of that list, so that's nice. But clear and away number 1, Perrin and Fael, Kill the Ones I Miss. Like, just the best. It was so good. I was so hyped. I don't even need to go into it because I went on like a 2-minute rant of how good it was with the drums in the background. And then I'm going to go. It's funny because 2 and 3 are both the same character. And I don't know why. It's just what I walked away with thinking of. I thought these 3 scenes first. And that's going to be Matt versus Elaine's 2 brothers. Because I just stood up and screamed. And then I'm going to do Matt and the Eelfin. Because that just blew the doors wide open. And it was such a cool looking scene too. I absolutely loved it. So Perrin and Fael, Kill the Ones I Miss, Matt and the 2 brothers, and then Matt and the Eelfin.
Okay, Kyle, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I had number 1 being the glass column, similar to Dave, but specifically picking one out, I think it's Charn and Lanfear drilling the boar. Was
Charn.
Just, I couldn't believe what my eyes were watching at the time. It felt surreal to literally watch Lanfear drill the boar. And then also we got the song, which was a banger, when they were harvesting all of their wheat in the field. It's just all of that just worked so well for me. Second one I had here was Perrin and Fael turning up. And then the third one I had was the Hills of Tanchico. Dave, I thought maybe that was going to be.
I'm trying not to say my honorable mention, guys. It's killing me on the inside to not just want to shout out every scene. But yes, that would have been my honorable mention.
That's just such a memorable moment. Even if you want to include the Tom Maryland rediscovery of it all in there, it just was such a great moment. And my honorable mention, branching off the Samael moment, I think it's the Rand trying to revive Alcera. They pulled it almost like really well out of the books, and it was so emotional, and just the VFX of the channeling in that moment too.
I got chills just thinking about Rand screaming, "I can do anything!"
Like what does the prophecy say? Like it's just it's so good.
That so my top 3, I lumped together the whole Samael kill plus the freaking out of the revive. So that whole end of episode 6, that was my number 1 moment of the season. Number 2 was going to be Matt versus Galad and Gawain. That was awesome. Paul mentioned that one. I thought that's one of the most iconic moments of the early part of Wheel of Time books ever, and I think that they landed that ship. And then my third one is going to be Egwene's glimpse into a possible future of Rand having have gone insane and killed Matt and Perrin, and just seeing what Yosha could do if the madness does end up taking over, and like just how chaotic, and he's screaming bow to me, like to Egwene, who's the Amerlin seat. Just such an epic moment of what could possibly come. That's something I think about all the time. So yeah, just so many great moments. You guys nailed it. Just what a fantastic season.
Can I mention my least favorite moment of the season real quick? And this was
Tom not throwing
8.
the dagger.
No, that's a close number 2. But the opening 10-year flashback of the finale when they're doing the vote to get Swan into the Amerlin seat, and they fucking ask for who votes for Swan, and then they move on to Elida, and then half the fucking room stands up. Everybody who has watched that has been like, what the fuck was that for? Is that to be dramatic because they they were a little late. They like lost their turn to vote. Like Emily,
Yeah.
you guys, me, I was hot about it.
Okay, let's move on to the next segment here. And this is going to be the most exciting storyline heading into season 4. And I'll just start because mine's pretty basic and I can't spoil too much. So I'll just say that I'm really looking forward to Rand's character and dealing with what I read as the last scene of the last shot of the season, with him less willing to let go of the power and seeing what he'll do, like if he lets himself go to Sidene a little bit more. So I think that's going to be cool, and whatever he does with the Aiel army.
I can go next. Sure. That was kind of what my backup one was, Luke. I was just adding in the Couladin of it all because he kind of just dipped, and maybe some people ended up following him. Question mark there. I was cautiously optimistic about this next storyline, so I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. But the whole Perrin rescue stuff, because we got that scene in episode 8 of like Fael, Bane, and Chiad overlooking the White Cloak camp, and those are some of my favorite characters. So I'm really looking forward to how they bring all of that stuff to light, let's say, with the children and kind of because I feel like we're going to get some interesting Perrin and Dane moments as well there, and they were honestly were going to be on my list of favorite pairings because I think they've done a really good job of setting those two up as antagonists in a way to each other. So looking forward to everything there, I think.
Dave, do you want to go? And then I'll just rattle off my list because I can't pick right now.
All right.
Well, it's good. You have a big list.
Yeah. Rand was going to be my second option because I think we're heading to the Stone of Tyr, I believe it's called, and I'm very excited for that. But the most exciting one for me has got to be Matt with the Eelfin, Aelfin, and the missing memories. I just have no idea what to expect with that storyline. So, and that's probably the one that I have the most questions about, which makes it for me the most interesting and most excited for season 4.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I have everything you guys said written down. Rand hopefully getting to Kalendor, Stone of Tyr. That was kind of number one, but you guys all said that. I have some other ones. Like I'm really looking forward to Elaine going back to Andor. But I think what I'm most excited for is, and I'm hoping here, I don't even know, is Nynaeve with her block removed, being able to channel. That's what I'm really looking forward to, is seeing her, really get down and dirty with the weave and, using it and whatnot. So I think that is what I am most excited to see.
Okay. A couple more. I have 3 more segments here and then we're done. So this next one is going to be just for me and Kyle real quick. This is going to just be any 1 or 2 things we want to mention now that were our least favorite book changes. And I can just rip mine real quick because they're not that deep. I didn't pick an answer that was like broad stroke, like across the whole series, like the lowering the amount of Forsaken or anything like that, but just in like a more smaller scale here. My 2 least favorite changes are if Loyal is dead, then I hate that. But I also am kind of on record thinking that he's going to come back. So I'll put that one aside. But I do hate that they did that if that's truly the end and last time we see him as a character. But the one that really bothered me was the lack of side characters getting screen time in the 2 Rivers during episode 7. And who I mean specifically for that is Tam. I wish that Rand's dad was there and was part of this whole thing. And then also, I think they dropped the ball with Lord Luke of not giving him more because like he's a character. So why not build him up more than just being in 2 scenes? So those were my biggest missteps, I'll just say, at a smaller scale.
Yeah, that somewhat aligned with mine. I have number 1, just Loyal and Swan of it all. It just hurts. I think I'm aware of the maybe logistics that played into it. I don't have to like it, even if I maybe understand there's a reason for it and I don't like it. The other one I had was just Nynaeve's crumbs. It's just, she's such a big character and she's just not in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things that she could have been doing and they could have done, I think, the block differently, the way that it manifests. And it just stinks that I'm sure a lot of people are leaving this season with like, man, like, I mean, Paul, you mentioned, I'm glad you said it too. It's like, okay, we can finally maybe have Nynaeve be more of a player and like a character going into next season. So I'm glad that maybe that's the sentiment, but it just feels like they've just thrown her crumbs in so much. Like Elaine has been with her and Elaine has been absolutely killing it. the whole season, and Nynaeve has just kind of been there almost. And the things that have been good for her have just been a lot more subtle, and I just feel like they should be louder. So that was kind of it. Just walking away from this season, that feels like the biggest like large complaint I have.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was kind of reflected in my LVP too. So, okay, this next one is going to be mainly the new guys segment, and this is going to be an opportunity for you guys to put anything else you want on the board ahead of season 4, and then make one of your guesses. If you don't have too many, that's fine. At least one, just who you would like to see fight coming up in this next season. That's also from Merrill. So that'd be a fun little answer there.
That's like all of my predictions. So
yeah, that's kind of the
going
same with me. Yeah, same with me.
A question: do we want to review kind of what you guys have on the board before you make new guesses, or do we
No, I
want to do
think
that afterwards?
for me personally, I think I have one that I'm going to reiterate from the board, and then another one that I think will be new. So I personally will be good, and then we can discuss them after though to see if any of them, see if I can confirm any of them.
Sure.
With my fortune telling. All right, yeah, Paul, you go first.
All right. Well, I'll rattle off a few of the face-offs that hopefully we get. I'm thinking Moraine is gonna kill Elida for what she did to Swan. Hopefully, a little revenge tour.
That's what I
like. Nice. I like. This whole episode seemed like her goal was to stay with Rand and stay with the dragon, make sure it gets to the battle. But I'm thinking she's just like, you know what? She's pulling a little Maxim, and she's like, I need to go kill this chick real quick. I got Nynaeve will take down Leandrin. Don't know if that's going to be next season, but I think that's just where they're going as well. I want to say Rand is going to like take out Couladin potentially, or at like the Shido in general, just because they're going to like rebel. Elaine versus Ravin, from which he goes back to Andor. Is that how that's going to go down,
bro?
And then on a positive note, I think Perrin and Dane, I think they're going to bury the hatchet. Could be completely wrong, but I want to say that their relationship is actually going to end up in a better place than it is. Things I want to look forward to seeing is maybe some forbidden weaves, some weaves that the Forsaken remember that maybe the Aes Sedai don't. We were getting a little bit of Balefire, and I know it's not exactly the same, but it's along the same lines of, techniques powerful that, we don't use anymore. And just the damn sling ring that the Forsaken wear. I want them to reference it at least once, because we saw that so many of them were wearing it. I think Samael was wearing it. Like, just reference it just once. Make me happy.
Yeah. So the one theory that I had that I'll reiterate from earlier this season that I'm really liking that I had was Varen's sister being the Black Aja within the tower. I think that we still are unaware of the one. We don't know who it's supposed to be, and I still like the pieces kind of falling into Varen's sisters for her to be the rat in the White Tower, and seeing how Elida is going to react to that will also be interesting, because now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like Elida was only made aware of the Black Aja that she killed and tortured, so the two that were prisoned. So I'm not sure if she even got wind of there being a third Black Aja in the tower, and seeing how she reacts will be great, because I'm sure she'll be caught off guard, and we know I hate Elida. So the other theory I will add here is I don't think Rand is going to be the first to use Kalendor. I'm going to believe that somehow one of the Forsaken, I know they said specifically the Forsaken can't use it, but some of the Forsaken, I forget who, also kind of hinted at the idea that there might be a way for them to use it. And it's one of those things that we've kept being hinted at, like, oh, Ravin, maybe you could be the wielder of Kalendor. And it's just one of those things where in a TV show, it's like, we can't let the enemy get to full power. And the main cast all tries to stop them, but the villain always gets to the main, the 100% power anyway. And it feels like we're setting ourselves up for that moment of, we can't let the Forsaken get it so bad that it's going to end up falling in their hands anyway. Go ahead, Paul.
One plot line that I just remembered, and I want to hear a yes or no from you to put it on the board, Dave. Do
Okay.
you think that Rand will be collared by this, Leandrian
It's
and
one,
Gideon? Maybe not by them, but do you think he'll just be collared in general?
yeah, I think it's with the same process where it's like we can't have Rand get collared. Whatever we do, we can't
Yeah.
have that happen. So it makes me feel like it's going to happen. And who knows? Maybe him getting collared could also set him up to walking that dark path that, again, we've been hinted at through the episode 4 and things like that. I don't know what the connection would be there, but yeah, I think that's pretty fitting too, that Rand does get collared for a little. I don't know how long, but I think that could be a possibility.
Yeah. Let's say I'm gonna say yes. He does get caught. You know what? This just came to me. This is completely out of left field. Maybe this doesn't happen. I was just thinking of the consequences of Matt and the Eelfin, and he said, "I need to stop getting bollocked about by this one power." So initially, I thought he's immune to the one power. What if that means that the Eelfin gave him the ability to channel, and now because he's going to be such a powerful channeler, he won't get balked about by the other one powers because he is just a beast. So what if he gets collared? What if Matt gets collared because he becomes too powerful?
It's on the board.
Yeah, you're adding it. And then I guess the last theory I'll have before I talk about some of the fights I want to see is, I'm just going to call my shot right now. Egwene and Rand are staying together. We're calling our shot right now. We have been a roller coaster on it, and I think my last decision made was that they weren't going to be together. I'm standing by that they're going to be together. I'm making my foot known, just planting that right there.
I think they're done.
Yeah.
Absolutely done.
That's a saying.
Yeah,
Footnote.
that's something people say, I'm pretty sure. But and then going into the fights, I'm looking forward to. Yes, I'm pissed that Paul caught up the Robin and Elaine one because I think they've been setting that one up very nicely. And then reiterating this one that I've been saying for seasons now: Egwene versus Lanfear. I don't know if that'll happen next season, but those, like Paul said, the other ones as well, I think all of those are set up in the future at least.
And since we can't get any actual board guesses, I'll just say my bucket list item for next season would be to see Kalendor and then maybe see Elias again and bring Perrin back into his Wolf Brother storyline, because that kind of got dropped. So I hope that we can see that guy again because he is awesome.
I concur. So if you're joining us for the first time on this episode, we have been using the concept of the board for the first 3 seasons, which is what Paul and Dave were just doing. It's just them putting their theories and their predictions out on there, and then us tracking them and seeing whether they are correct or not. As you know, if you're a book reader, and as you're probably finding out if you're a show watcher, this show runs very deep. There are a lot of things that are planted early and come back around. It's good to make these series long shots that they're kind of all throwing out there. So we can do honestly a quick recap of a bit of where we're at, maybe some wins that happened this season. We'll call it some losses that happened this season. And then I wrote down
no half points given, Paul.
Yeah. And then I just wrote down some of the really like season long or kind of maybe series long things you guys have said to just be reminded of them. I think it works best to just take you guys in as individuals. So we'll start with Paul because Paul's first on my list here. So some season 3 wins that you had was that you called in season 1 that there would be a mutiny in the White Tower and there would be a new Amerlin seat. And
Nice.
some losses that you had that we found out this season were, I guess maybe they're not over yet, but you've walked back both of them. So Lanfear sees the light was something that you thought was going to happen. You took that one off the board. And then the other one was that Min was the 12th member of the Black Aja that was working in the tower. You've also walked that one back this season.
Definitely not.
Yeah. And then
it's crazy.
Some season 3 things that you've said is that Avienda, or rather, these are predictions that you've added in season 3 outside of the ones that you just did. So you think that Avienda will end up replacing Bear as the Tardad Aiel's kind of main / head wise one. You also think that Tom is Elaine's dad. And then all of the ones that you just ended up saying. And then now going back to all 3 seasons. So this is your big dog members of the board here, Paul. So you have that the dragon can cleanse the one power of the taint. You mentioned that there's a small piece of power inside Logain that will grow back over time. You said that Elaine will be the next Amerlin, or at least the Amerlin at some point, and Egwene will be her keeper of the Chronicle. You think that Lan will be bonded to both Moraine and Nynaeve. Wasn't clear whether that would happen at the same time or not. And then the last one I have here is that, which is somewhat similar to you just said, what you were looking forward to in this upcoming season, is that you think that the Forsaken have access to forbidden techniques, but they still use the one power itself.
Some crazy stuff.
Your big dog board guesses right there. Yeah. And now we'll move into Dave. So obviously, in addition to all the things that you just ended up saying there, some wins you had this season. So you called immediately in episode 2 that Gabriel was going to be a Forsaken or a Dark Friend. Immediately got that win the next episode at the start of episode 3. You called in season 1 that Siuan Sanche had death vibes. That was confirmed in the finale episode. And then you also joined Paul in this, the Aes Sedai Civil War, and that there would be a mutiny with the new Amerlin. That discussion also happened in season 1. So that all paid off multiple seasons later. What you've added to the board this season, some of the things I picked out, you think that Aviendha is going to die eventually. You mentioned that Egwene and Rand together will use the 2 Sa'angreal, so Kalendor and the Sarkhanen, to defeat the Dark One in the end. You've already mentioned that you think Adeleus is that 12th Black Aja member. And then the things that you've added in this discussion. And then the long shots for you, the big dog board members that I've pulled out, are you also agreed with Paul in that the dragon can cleanse the one power of the taint. You have Egwene becoming the Amerlin seat at some point in the series. I wrote this down. It's funny you confirmed it. You are firmly in this camp that Egwene and Rand will be together in the end. That romance will last through the journey. And then you ended up on the opposite side of this of Paul, of you think that the Forsaken have access to a non-one power. So you guys were on opposite sides of that one.
Okay.
And those are just the big, long, serious things. You guys also both agree that Nynaeve will be Yellow Aja at some point. It's clear that there's chaos going on in the tower.
Yellow's knowledge, what was Yellow again?
Healing.
Yeah, that was another series-long one.
Yeah, that one, I don't know about that one, but yeah.
You guys are taking some big swings, which I appreciate personally. I like that you guys, I mean, a lot of this was season 1 stuff too, which is very interesting, of that you guys are just firing series long takes out in season 1. And it's just been fun to track all of them.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I think season 1, it might've been like episode 1 or 2. The Fade is chasing our crew with Moraine and Land, and they're on a horse. And I was like, does a horse have a name or something like that? And you were like, dude, we'll talk about that in 12 years. So I'm still looking forward to that. I have
Dave quote written down as well, that the horse is the Dark One.
Yeah. You might have to draw that one back, but we'll stick with it. We'll stick with the gut.
Okay.
I think that's going to do it for the episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
We have no segments left, so I think I'll just take the time to really thank everyone that has been interacting with us. We called out some people in the discussion of like Meryl, Rantel Moore, Sully from the Discord, obviously Delco Nick, the legend himself, and more from the Discord specifically too, that are engaging in these conversations every single week with us. It's just such fun supplemental content on top of doing the podcast itself. It's just so fun to engage with you all. And then obviously the YouTube. I mean, there's only too many people to name from the YouTube comments that are just here every week, tuning in, listening, watching, engaging, providing their opinion, correcting us when they're wrong. I made a lot of mistakes in the finale episode, and people are just in the comments saying, hey, like this is actually, XYZ.
How dare you tell us that Balefire was what it was when it was clearly something else? Because that was one that I think I caught out in the YouTube comments a lot.
I got ahead of myself. I was reading right from the wiki, and then I got ahead of myself of saying that it burned your thread completely out of the pattern.
People were nice in commenting the correction.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't mean.
Yeah, which is just great. It's just so fun to see how engaging the community is, and it adds to our level of enjoyment as well. It's almost overwhelming at times of like when I refresh the Google Studio or the YouTube Studio and it's like 83 comments and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Like I read all of them. It's just sometimes it's like, okay, I got to respond to all of them. But I just want to give everyone a shout out. It's just been so much fun, and it's sad that it's over. We had been looking forward to this for so long, and it always goes by so quickly. But we just hope you guys stick with us as a podcast. Binge Empire specifically is one of 5 of Bingetown TV's podcasts that we have. So there's the 4 of us. There's 3 more members of Bingetown TV that also engage with the podcast content. And we'll continue on Binge Empire with The Last of Us. That'll be the show we're actually currently covering there. And then there's other shows that are going on that we'll be covering. So we have a podcast that's called The Core, which is we cover everything. Well, not everything, but everything on that podcast is on Apple TV. So Silo on Apple TV. We talked about Severance. We covered Severance on that podcast. We're currently covering The Studio and Your Friends and Neighbors. And we will be covering Murderbot coming next month on that as well. We have Dark and Twisted is another one of our podcasts that just wrapped up covering Yellow Jackets, The White Lotus, and I believe the new Dexter show that's coming out at some point in the summer. That's just kind of the vibe that happens on Dark and Twisted. Final Form is our podcast that focuses on anime and animation. So we brought up Invincible in this episode. We covered Invincible and anime shows like Solo Leveling, Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer. That's kind of the vibe that is over at Final Form. And then lastly, Unreal is our reality television podcast. The shows that we've covered on that are going to be Survivor, not covering this season specifically, maybe beyond a couple like recap episodes throughout the season. But that is the vibe that is over there. The Traders on Peacock, Traders, diehard fans out there. Fantastic show. We had a blast doing that on the podcast. So I say all of that stuff just to mention to you all that while Wheel of Time is ending, us doing podcast content is not ending. So it would mean the world to us to support us by subscribing to Binge Empire, subscribing to the YouTube, liking the YouTube video. 5-star reviews are always great for us. Just helps us get the content out to more and more people. And then staying fans of those shows that I just mentioned, checking them out and just sticking with us as we get into our maybe 2.5-year wait of season 4 of The Wheel of Time. That's usually my end spiel. I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything before we kind of sign off here on season 3.
No, last thing I'll say is that we just walk the footsteps of our fathers. We trails blazed by our mothers.
Nice.
Yeah, we're gonna have to weep for Manethrin and then shake our titties for the hills of Tanchico for 2.5 years.
You have to pay for that content elsewhere, but you get that shit for free here on Binge.
Okay, what a great way to end the season for the final time, excuse me, I believe, of season 3 of The Wheel of Time. We are Binge Empire, and thank you so much for listening.